Time on the road for the first time this year. We are very happy to have you guys in on the discussion live from Atlanta. We're going to have a great conversation about the Titans and their preseason game coming up tonight. Looking forward to it. We are going to get into some position battles to watch, some conversations that need to be had about this particular team, and go through it together. We're going to talk a good deal about the Titans in the preseason live here from Atlanta, and we're going to have a good time doing it. We will also get to, over the course of tonight's show, some concerns with Julio Jones. Apparently, my microphone is off. It shouldn't be off. It should be on. As far as I can tell, it's plugged in and on. So let's make sure that everybody can see me tonight and hear me tonight on A to Z Sports Prime Time. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody see me? We want to make sure that we got this thing going. Nope, I'm first, says Larry Ford. Well, listen, there's a bunch of people who are jumping in the comments section, and we're happy to have everybody in tonight. How are the robes, says Evan C. White. The robe is satisfactory. The robe is satisfactory. There is only one robe, not two robes, only one robe, which is something that I'm not necessarily thrilled about, but it's okay because we're here with you. We're live in Atlanta for the first road office prime time of the year. So we'll talk about Julio Jones. We'll preview tomorrow's Titans preseason game, and we'll have a great time doing it. We will also do the Brymac Bounce Back Candidate of the Week. That's going to be essential. Oh, I saw some lightning outside. I got a great view. Apparently, there's a Ferris wheel in the middle of downtown Atlanta. It's right outside of our window, so I'm going to see if I can't just do the entire radio show tomorrow from the Ferris wheel. But anyway, we're going to have a great time tonight. A lot of good content to send out for you. Fishbit says we can't hear you. Just ever the troll, Robert Mason. Pay him no mind. It's now time, though, to begin A to Z Sports Prime Time. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Thursday night, live from Atlanta. Not from the DraftKings Sportsbook studios, but you still get the gist. Proud, as always, to be presented to you by our friends at Two Rivers Ford. Since 1983, they've been providing you exceptional customer service. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. Of course, the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage at GaryAshton.com. Your dream address without the stress is what you can get from the Ashton team. Make sure that you get the best intel in the Nashville real estate market, courtesy of our friends at GaryAshton.com. Of course, DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Promo code A to Z Sports gets you in on all the action, and I'll tell you more about the action that you should be on later in the show. Promo code A to Z Sports in the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And, of course, Brymac Mechanical, who came to my house today. My AC, I got a great story to tell you about Brymac, but BRYMAK, Brymac.com, that's satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. BRYMAK, Brymac Mechanical. Okay, so we got people watching. We got people watching the Field of Dreams game. We got people watching preseason football. You got the Eagles. You got the Steelers. And then what has just gone to the half between the Patriots and the Washington football team. Sports, it feels great. Tomorrow, it's going to be the Titans, and that's what we're here to talk about. Hope that isn't Marriott, says Puka. Listen, I am proudly a Marriott person. They do not advertise with this show, but I'm a Marriott person until I die. Marriott Bonvoy for life. Anytime I can walk into a hotel room and the TV says, hello, Buck, it's time to relax. That is the place that I want to exist, Puka. This is why we are Marriott people. Football is back, says Mark Gonzalez. Yes, indeed it is. I forgot I can throw your guys' comments up there, even on the road. Evan C. White says, I also claim that I smoked the first cigarette ever in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They're not allowed. Ooh, spicy. Well, we will be there tomorrow. I'll be in Atlanta, obviously. I'll be at the game tomorrow. I think I'm like 2 blocks from the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I'll be on Titans Radio tomorrow. Which with Jim Wyatt and Rhett Bryan. To do the pregame coverage there as well. So you can hear that locally on 104.5 The Zone. And I'll also be obviously doing my radio show here. But in the meantime, throughout all of that coverage, we're going to be talking about the Tennessee Titans. We're going to be talking about the Titans and the Falcons in this pregame matchup, this preseason matchup. So I have 5 position battles that I am watching Friday night down here in Atlanta. And I want to get your opinion first and foremost here on A to Z Sports Prime Time. Which position for the Titans are you most closely focused on Friday? Producer Reed, if we could change the wording of that question a little bit as we get going, I would appreciate that greatly. Which position are you most closely focused on for the Titans against the Falcons on Friday night? Please let me know in the comments section on Facebook Live, Periscope, Twitter, and Twitch. We will discuss at length together here on A to Z Sports Prime Time. Defensive line, says Preston Miles. Buck, your hotel looking fine, says Trevor. Looking fire. Yeah, listen, I walked in. They said, we upgraded you. I said, this is why I'm a Marriott person for life. 100%. Everywhere we go, baby, the best in the business. I'm not even angling for a Marriott endorsement out of this. They should, though. It'd be well worth their money. Wide receiver 3 and second cornerback spot for Steven Rodriguez. Juicebox says defensive backs, offensive line depth, and wide receiver. Your Two Rivers Ford take. Which position are you most closely focused on when the Titans play the Falcons tomorrow night? We'll read more of your answers. I'll play you a couple clips from practice this past week of at least two of the positions that I'm watching closely right after I tell you about our friends at Two Rivers Ford. Two Rivers Ford, I drove here in a Ford after I went to Two Rivers Ford to make sure that my tires were in good shape, that my oil didn't need changing. I went out to Mount Juliet and I got award-winning customer service from my friends at Two Rivers Ford. The best in the business since 1983 is Two Rivers Ford. Great vehicles like the 2022 Ford Maverick, the all-electric Mustang Mach-E, and the Ford Bronco. I'm going to go test drive one when I get home, except I'm not really going to be home a lot lately because next week we're in Tampa all week long. The show is in Tampa, by the way, and we're going to be down there courtesy. Well, we're not going to be down there courtesy of our friends at Two Rivers Ford. We're always down here, always out here doing the primetime show courtesy of our friends at Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. Okay, so position battles to watch. I've got 5 of them I'd like to go through with you guys here tonight. So first and foremost, for me, it starts with the backup quarterbacks. There's a lot of producer Reed and I was driving down here from Nashville. I left right after the radio show was over. So producer Reed and myself, we did the pre-show meeting on the phone today while I was driving and while I was getting settled in my hotel. And I told Reed, I'm like, this is the first time in a long time that I've been legitimately excited for camp battles to come to fruition, right? We haven't had preseason games. Now you get to see how some of these storylines advance for players like Logan Woodside and Matt Barkley, Marcus Johnson, who's had a fantastic camp. Where is Christian Fulton in his readiness? And is Elijah Molden pushing anybody for the slot cornerback position? These are all questions that we're going to start getting the answers to after several weeks of watching them build day upon day leading up to this first dress rehearsal. And it's really exciting if you're a hardcore fan of football. And even I think just coming off of the pandemic and no preseason, I'm legitimately excited to watch this play out. But it starts first and foremost with the backup quarterback position.
Yeah, absolutely. My whole life I've had to compete, and that's something that's really tried to raise my game, through competition. And Deshaun's been great. We've been working hard together, and learning things from him, and I'm sure he's doing the same. So it's been good.
Yeah, but I like fire hoses. I've been in this situation before where I've had to learn a whole new language in a matter of weeks. So I do have some familiarity being in Shanahan's offense before, and there's some carryover between the systems. So. The fact that they already kind of got all their installs and they're going a little deeper now is a little tougher than like a day one install, but it's part of the job, and I'm embracing it.
So that is Logan Woodside and Matt Barkley, both backup quarterbacks. Obviously, now Woodside, the last time we talked to him was when Kaiser was still on the team. So this was pre-Matt Barkley. And Matt Barkley we just spoke to recently earlier this week because he's only been around for a couple of days at this point. But who looks the most comfortable out there? You heard Barkley kind of say, well, it was a ridiculous quote because you have no context for the question that he was asked. And he just starts off his answer with, yeah, I love fire hoses, which completely neglects the idea that somebody asked him, is coming in at this point in camp like drinking through a fire hose. Otherwise, you just think that Matt Barkley wants to grow up to be a firefighter or something. I have no idea. It's just a weird, context. I blame producer Reed. You should have clipped it off the front, Reed. Now Matt Barkley looks like a weirdo who's obsessed with fire hoses. Here on A to Z Sports Prime Time, but not from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios. We're live here in Atlanta, courtesy of all of the people who make this show free for you. Matt Barkley going to shred the Falcons. Surprisingly, says Dom Odell. So we know that Woodside is going to start. We know that Woodside is going to get the first reps out there because Mike Vrabel has already said that Ryan Tannehill is not going to play in this game. Remember also that he said Caleb Farley was not ready to play in this game. But the first position that I would start with when talking about the position battles to watch in this is the backup quarterback. And Reed, if we can, we're live producing the show. Reed, if we can tweet out each position as we go through them, through the five, I think that would be helpful for people who want to weigh in throughout the course of this thing. So Matt Barkley is going to shred the Falcons surprisingly. Well, Matt Barkley should be able to shred the threes, right? And if he can't, then that Logan Woodside, again, doesn't really have good competition. I was reading an article from Trey. Oh, I'm blanking on Trey's last name, but he's one of the great writers over there at Broadway Sports Media, right? Where our friend Mike Herndon, Mike Miracles, and Zach from Football and Other F Words, and Lebowski, like all those guys, right? And so I was reading Trey's article about how they haven't really brought in competition enough for Woodside. And my response to that was, no, they've run several guys through here to try and push Woodside. And Woodside's beaten them all out, be it Deshaun Kaiser or Trevor Siemian or Cole McDonald. Like all of these guys that have been brought in to try and knock Woodside out of the backup quarterback position, they haven't been good enough. It's not for lack of trying. They've clearly looked to continually try and push him. And Woodside, to this point, has beaten them out. Now, whether Barkley, with veteran savvy and experience and actual NFL experience, is a superior option. Matt Barkley I won't say he's played good football. He has started in football games, right? Most of the sample size of Matt Barkley has been really, really bad. But ultimately, he does have that NFL experience. He understands, conceptually how to operate an offense like this, even if Woodside knows the offense better from having spent several years now here in Tennessee. I'm starting with the backup quarterbacks as one of the five positions that I would like to watch, that I'm going to watch tomorrow. Secondarily, the edge rushers behind Bud Dupree and Harold Landry. I think that there's a lot of interesting depth there between Derek Roberson, who we've heard has come in with the best mindset and the best physically he's looked in camp, according to his outside linebackers coach Ryan Crow. I think that you look at a lot of this and you say, okay, Derek Roberson's kind of on the outside looking in. If you're to take the snap counts from last year seriously at all, Wyatt Ray played significantly more than Derek Roberson. So where do those two guys from last year kind of fall in the mix with Rashad Weaver, John Simon, Ola Adenyi, who is going to be playing as a core special teamer and pushing people at the outside linebacker position? What are all these guys kind of, and are there dudes who we're still sleeping on at this point at the outside at any position really, whether they're guys that we've been talking about but have made more progress in the meeting rooms than we've seen actually carried out onto the field, the stuff behind the scenes that we don't necessarily get access to outside of watching practice on a day-to-day basis. Edge rushers and backup quarterbacks, definitely the top two things that I'm focused on. We'll get to the other three here in just a second, because I promised you I have five position groups that I'm keeping an eye on tomorrow. Well, I'm going to watch the whole game top to bottom, but five in particular that intrigue me. Quarterback, edge rusher. I'll tell you the next three here in just a second, right after I remind you about everyone's favorite time of year, because it's right around the corner. It's college football season about to start. To celebrate, DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is putting new players in the center of the action with $200 in free bets instantly. If you bet $1 or more on any college football game, take advantage of this limited time offer now. Head to the DraftKings Sportsbook app to check out all the great promotions and daily odds boosts that they're offering, like the one I've just told you about. All you got to do, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use the promo code A2Z Sports to receive $200 in free bets. With promo code A2Z Sports, $200 in free bets instantly. All you got to do is place $1 down on any college football game for a limited time, only a limited time at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Tennessee only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789. So, Jordan Estrada says, see you at the game tomorrow, Buck. Man, I hope I see a lot of you guys down here. We're broadcasting live, by the way, in Atlanta, thanks to all of our great sponsors who make the primetime show possible. Certainly in the preseason game tomorrow is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to have to hydrate, though. I've been talking a lot today. Hydration is key. So to that end, we've gone through two of the 5 position groups that I'm most closely focused on. Another one is kicker. I'm interested in what's going to happen at kicker because I know a part of our pregame conversation tomorrow in Titans Radio is going to be focused around these guys. You know, whether Tucker McCann, who has dealt with injury in his rookie season, remember, practice squad injured reserve last year, is somebody who, as Mike Vrabel said, they wanted to get a closer look at in 2020, but the injury prevented them from doing so. Then there's Sam Ficken, who is a more proven commodity, has actual NFL experience, was accurate from inside of 50, which is where the Titans really, really struggled. Gostkowski was so weird last year because, and again, he settled down by a mile from the way that the season started. It could have gotten much worse than it did in Denver, but it didn't. He leveled out, I thought, pretty well. And was reliable. Certainly you didn't fear him as you did at the start of the season. But Gostkowski, the numbers were so skewed because he was super accurate from 50 yards plus, but inside of 50 and really inside of 45. Like, he was really struggling. The guy who's one of the most accurate kickers in NFL history. So I never understood that. But with Sam Ficken, he did not miss a kick inside of 50 yards last year. With the New York Jets. He's had some time with the Jacksonville Jags as well. And really, whether the kicker who's going to play for them for the bulk of 2021 is even on the roster right now. I think those are all fair questions and something that preseason games, this is the opportunity for everybody to see what we're reporting out and tweeting out at practice every day. Now they have an audience. Now they have a stage. How do they perform under pressure? Which is, a level of pressure that these two guys, Ficken has played in NFL games, as we mentioned. But Tucker McCann, really didn't have a preseason. So now we'll find out whether he can play under these kind of circumstances. What positions are you most looking forward to? Are you most interested in watching tomorrow night? Texas Sports 1015 says, Buck, RELAX. Relax. I am very relaxed. I'm very zen. I love road trips. I really do. I like traveling. I like seeing different cities. I like going to places that I found the last time I was in these cities. I love Atlanta. I spent a lot of time in Atlanta because my girlfriend used to live down here when we first started dating. She came up to Nashville way more than I came down to Atlanta because of work. But definitely the handful of times, probably 5 or 6, I'd say, outside of the 2019 game that they played here, where Marcus Mariota looked fantastic 2 years ago. It's always a good time to come down to Atlanta, especially to stay downtown in the center of everything. I really enjoy. I'm going to have to go to the Varsity tomorrow for lunch, probably. Susan Solnick says, Buck all dressed up, looking like we all need to step our game up, listening to the king of the mic. That's right, Susan. We love to see it. We love to see it. Wide receivers is what Chris Stress is focused on. I thought about including wide receivers in this conversation, and we're also watching this preseason game with you. Oh, well, I guess you could be watching 2 preseason games or even the Field of Dream games. But I would say that, wide receivers all did not make my cut of 5 of the 5 that I'm most interested in, right? because I'm pretty sure, I know AJ Brown and Julio Jones are going to be the starters for this team. I have seen a ton of Marcus Johnson. Marcus Johnson and Chester Rogers have been a really big, just the position in general has been a really, really big focus of this training camp for all of us, whether we're watching Racey McMath, Des Fitzpatrick. There's a lot of different kind of guys in that group. So because I've watched them so much in camp, I kind of have an idea how they stack up. Now, how they perform in a rehearsal type situation, it remains to be seen. Because Luke Corbett asks, will Reynolds play any? I would say Josh Reynolds, I don't know for a fact that Josh Reynolds is going to play. I don't know that. So I don't want to, sit here and act like I'm reporting it. I don't know the answer to that. But I do know that his status with this team is in jeopardy if he can't get on the field. Now, he has been back on the field since returning from injury. So one would assume if he's healthy enough to practice, he would be healthy enough to take some preseason snaps. Now, to what extent they might want to work him, I don't know. They may be trying to be cautious with him, but he hasn't necessarily been on one of these, half practice plans that they've been doing with a lot of the other veteran guys like Lawan or Derrick Henry or AJ Brown, just not practicing some days. So I would anticipate that he plays. I don't know for a fact that he will. I think if he doesn't play, it's telling about the status of him physically, because then it's, I think more extreme than we might have otherwise thought. It's almost pumpkin spice latte time, says BMO54. No, we're not doing the pumpkin spice latte show. Well, A to Z Sports is doing Titans Game Day Morning, which is the pumpkin spice latte bathrobe joint. Formally, it's not going to be me hosting it anymore because I have Titans radio obligations now. So I'm passing the torch. I don't know that Austin and Zach have announced who is taking over for me on Sunday mornings on A to Z, because I've got the Titans radio responsibilities to do. But I think that you guys are still going to enjoy it. I don't know if whomever is going to host it after me is going to do pumpkin spice lattes and the bathrobe, but I really enjoyed doing that show. So in the meantime, Thursday night prime time, maybe I'll throw on the bathrobe for every once in a while for old time's sake before a game. But unfortunately, no Titan Game Day mornings for me. I'd rather watch you, Buck. I'm not really interested in a preseason game, but I'll be watching tomorrow. Well, that's good, Brad. Good. Julian Council is here. If the Titans don't go at least 12-5, do we start to question Vrabel? Yes. Fire everybody. Give me blood. No, you idiot. Mike Vrabel is not on the hot seat. Julian Council in here just because the Panthers are an absolute misery and Sam Darnold wants to do more research before getting vaccinated. How sad your existence must be, Julian. No, we miss our buddy. And I hope that he's out drinking White Claws somewhere and drunk commenting in the chat, as I would expect him to do. Pumpkin spice is not good, says Xavier. Well, that's just dumb. Get out of here. You're all future soft media. Pumpkin spice is not good. I'll deal with this idiot later. We got a show to do. So kicker, edge rusher, backup quarterback. Those are the three positions so far that we've named. But the fourth, and a pretty unique one, because it's really just two positions that I'm looking at. And it ought to just be one position that I'm looking at, because there's only one position in question. And that position right now is right tackle. So my question is about Dylan Radins and whether he plays right tackle tomorrow or whether they try and start him at guard.
Who is the first team right tackle right now?
That is Ty Sambrailo right now.
Okay. So where is Radins playing tackle, or are they moving him around?
He is a backup right guard to Nate Davis, according to the unofficial depth chart that they handed us all at practice the other day.
Because it's funny you say that, because when I watched his college tape, just for fun and games here, I actually thought, believe it or not, and it's interesting they moved him inside, I actually thought he could be a great center. Now, I don't fancy myself by any means, Buck, as an offensive line guru, so take it for what it's worth. A lot smarter people than I'll have a much better point of view on it than I. but I kind of thought of Mitch Morse, who came out of Missouri as a 3-year starter at left tackle, went to the Chiefs. He's now with the Bills, but right away the Chiefs made him an offensive center, and that's the position he's played in the NFL, and he's a good one. I kind of thought of Dylan Radins that way, so I find it interesting they moved him inside, because obviously he must be getting snaps in practice at guard, right?
Oh yeah, no, he's worked both at tackle and
Okay.
more than anything inside right now.
So it's interesting. Again, doesn't make me right or wrong. We'll see how it all plays out. But Sambreo right now is the starting right tackle, huh?
Yeah, I can see the hot take bubbling beneath the surface, Greg. You want
There
to
you
come out and
go.
say Dylan Radins is center. It's a take. It's a take, no matter how hard you try to fight.
That one is more of an opinion than anything, because, and again, like I said, I'm not a guru with the offensive line, but just that's what I thought watching his tape in North Dakota State.
Well, that is Greg Cosell on the podcast I do with him every Wednesday, talking about Dylan Radins. Greg Cosell of NFL Films. Can Dylan Radins, find his way to right tackle, or is he a backup right now? Is he just a depth guy? Is he somebody who is not? I mean, obviously, he's not ready to play at the position that they drafted him, one would think, to play. Now, they'll probably need guys at different positions, and it's good to have some versatility up front if Sambrelo is going to start. But at this point, Dylan Radins is a backup right guard, and we'll see how long it takes throughout the course of this preseason into camp and then closer to the regular season, if he's able to legitimately push somebody like Ty Sambrelo or even Kendall Lamb when he works his way back from some nicks and bruises that he's been dealing with. If Dylan Radins can push those two veterans, or if he's still a year or two away. The Hall of Fame, or excuse me, not the Hall of Fame game. I don't have the Field of Dreams game on right now. I'm watching the Patriots and the football team because I wanted to watch Mac Jones, and he looks pretty good. Now, preseason football, no defensive schemes, nobody's going crazy. But right now, the preseason game is what I'm focused on. The Field of Dreams, I don't know. It doesn't do it for me. It's just baseball. Baseball is not my thing. Okay, let's wrap up the show tonight with, we've got a few more topics to do here on A to Z Sports Prime Time. Some concerns. Well, no, I got to finish my positions. Let me not forget. Talking about the offensive line, the final of the 5 positions that I'm most focused on in the preseason. We've talked about backup quarterback. We've talked about the kickers. We've talked about the edge rushers, the offensive line. Finally, the secondary. I want to see Christian Fulton in action. I want to see where Christian Fulton lines up. And obviously, again, they're not going to be doing a ton to scheme defensively. But I want to see how things work with Christian Fulton and with Elijah Molden, and who is the other starting outside corner. Is it Breon Borders? Because I doubt Jackrabbit plays. I would be surprised if Jackrabbit Jenkins plays in the first preseason game. I think that there's a lot of young pieces and parts out there that we're going to learn a lot about, whether Amani Hooker wants to get some snaps in as the starting strong safety, or whether it's Matthias Farley or these two guys who they just signed. I think it's Tedrick Thompson. Let me double check because I tweeted that out earlier. They signed him right as I was leaving the radio station today. They signed 2 safeties. They waived Kalijah Lipscomb, the wide receiver. So it's Tedrick Thompson and Reggie Floyd, 2 safeties that they signed today. Buck, I like your new venue, says Carlos. Yes, we're live in Atlanta. If you did not know, this is how we will do primetime when I'm, I don't know how many Thursday nights I'm going to be out on the road. But certainly the odd Sunday, many Sundays throughout the course of the regular season, because we're going to go back to doing primetime in the stadiums again, which is something we haven't been able to do since 2019. The last time I did a primetime show in a press box in a stadium was the AFC Championship game against the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm looking forward to bringing that aesthetic back. Mudgy Ferris says, dude, what about the tight ends? I want to see some depth shine here. So I wonder what happens. I wonder what happens with somebody like Tommy Hudson, because I thought for a while that them bringing Luke Stocker back probably meant the end of Tommy Hudson. But since then, I think he's made some strides, and his coaches have spoke to that as well. He's a bit of a developmental project, it seems, and he had a PED suspension last year, so we really don't know much, if at all, about him right now, other than a few reps in practice. But, Miller Forrestall is another one that's kind of intriguing. I just think that there's not really anything. There's not really anything like Briley Moore, I think, would have made the roster. If, like, at the time that we saw him in camp, if camp had ended then, I think he would have made the 53-man at the tight end position. But he tore his ACL, unfortunately, pretty early on in this training camp. So Miller Forrestall just doesn't look pro ready to me. Now, it doesn't mean it can't be. Doesn't mean he's not a practice squad guy, a developmental guy. But yeah, I mean, as Mudgy says, if Ferkser goes down, listen, I mean, you saw what happened when you could do that with any player, though, right? Mudge, like you could. We're on a nickname basis now. I just called you Mudge. My bad. I would say ultimately that the Titans were kind of bleeped last year when Taylor Lewan went down, and you saw how much worse they got on 3rd and 6 yards plus, right? That's something that was noticeable because the star left tackle went down. So you're going to have these at any point, right, throughout the course of the regular season. Guys are going to go down. You're going to have to find ways to have solutions. And yeah, if it's at the tight end position, your depth is a big unknown. Outside, I mean, Jeff Swaim a little bit, but he's been hurt. And that Luke Stocker is he's certainly not somebody you want to hand the ball to on 4th and 2 on the goal line. But you also know that he is a proficient blocking tight end. He's not an overwhelming receiver in that spot. Now, Kari Blossingame and Torrey Carter, as BMO asked, the other fullback, the undrafted rookie who got the most guaranteed money of any of them, they have looked competent. Kari Blossingame has put on a ton of weight, like good weight, healthy weight, and he looks physically bigger and more physical out there. I think he's going to make a big difference in terms of run blocking for Derek this year. And also, he has been a weapon in the passing game. We had him on the radio show on, what was that, Wednesday, because Will Compton was in there, and we talked about because Will was sitting in the studio, and we talked about the time that Kari mossed him in Oakland in 2019, right? So there are different ways to kind of stabilize a position like tight end if you got a fullback who can be a weapon, an asset in the passing game. But also what it takes away from your running game if that's how you choose to use him, right? Brendan Greenwood says Blossingame for tight end. No, you want him at fullback. And maybe Carter pushes him, but I think it's Blassingame's job to lose. All right, so let's talk quickly about Julio Jones, and then let's get you back to preseason football tonight. The question that I have for you about Julio Jones, if you would like to weigh in the comment sections, concerns about Julio Jones. How troubled are you on a scale of 1 to 10 that we have not seen him basically since last Tuesday or longer than that? It's been 2 Tuesdays ago. Let me know in the comment section on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch, because Roselle asks, so what's going on with Quintorris? Well, we will attempt to talk about it here on A to Z Sports Prime Time, not from the DraftKings Sportsbook studios, but it's presented by DraftKings. While we tell you guys, or while you guys respond with your number, your scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you about Julio Jones? I will tell you about our friends at the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com is where you go. Your dream address without the stress is what the Ashton team can provide to you. That is why they are the official real estate agent of the Titans. They're the official real estate agent of me. Normally, we do this in my dream address without the stress, but right now we're on the road. But the Ashton team, they are locally based. They work in Nashville. They work for Middle Tennesseans to help you win the buyer battle when you utilize their services. Gary Ashton and the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage at GaryAshton.com. What is your level of concern about Quintorris Lopez, a.k.a. Julio, a.k.a. Waffle House Jones? What is your level of concern in the comment section on a scale of 1 to 10? You on that dog food, says Chris Frazier? I don't know what that means. John Barsh says, is he hurt? Yeah, I mean, well, so let me say this. He looked like he came down kind of funky it's been like 10 days at this point, 10 days ago in practice. Looked like he landed kind of weird. And immediately, he was rushed off not rushed off the practice field, but they helped him off the practice field and he was done for the day. And all he's done since then is he really didn't even participate in the walkthrough on, what was that, yesterday? The walkthrough yesterday at St. Thomas Sports Park, because him and AJ, neither of them did anything. They were just out there kind of standing behind the offense and watching everybody go through the motions. Obviously, they're not going to play tomorrow. I would imagine between AJ, we know Tannehill's not going to play. You're probably not going to see Lawan. I doubt. I would be shocked if you saw Roger Saffold. It's going to be the Logan Woodside and Friends show. So, scale of 1 to 10, what is your level of concern? Let's see. 2 for Carlos, 5 for Xavier. Brian McNeil says 0. Kenneth Davidson a 2. Chris Frazier a 0. John Bertotti says 2. Not too concerned. Wasn't he in the walkthrough yesterday? He was not. He was at the walkthrough. He wasn't in the walkthrough. You know what I'm saying? Alonzo Henderson says, not trouble at all. You rest your star players so you can get the most out of them during the season. And that's absolutely so. That is why my level of concern is a flat 0. I am not concerned in the least bit about Julio Jones. I'm just not. Now is not the time to be concerned. If this is something that happens during the season and he misses multiple weeks, then you get concerned. But now is not the time. Now is not the time to have any kind of angst about the Julio Jones situation. It's just not, because he's talked about his health before. I've talked about his health before. And, when last we spoke to him, which was not last Saturday, but the Saturday before that, he told us that he was 100% healthy, but they were going to take a specific maintenance plan with him. And it's something that at the start of the year, when he was traded here, that he very much emphasized.
Julio, how are you feeling? A lot of people have been pointing out that you missed some games last year. How are you feeling right now? Obviously, you worked today, but for a guy who's 32 and people are ready to write you off, how are you feeling right now? And how do you expect to answer those folks?
For me, at the end of the day, I believe in me. I know what I have in the tank. And we're talking about age is 32. I'm young. In football, you can say it's old, but you either do it or you don't. This game don't change for me. I'm still fast and still strong. And to, the games last year, I just, had an issue where I didn't take enough time to heal up properly. But, that was just my decision on going out there and just playing. There's no excuses, things like that. But I'll be ready to go. So for those who questioning my health and things like that, just stay tuned.
Stay tuned. That's what you got to do. Just stay tuned. It ain't that deep. Julio Jones is accustomed to doing this at this point. He's just not at a point in his career where he needs all these practice reps and all these preseason reps. He's just not somebody who at his stage in his career requires that, even as he's coming to a new team and a new quarterback for the first time in a decade. That makes you kind of look at it, not side-eyed, but it makes you add a little more scrutiny to it. But again, he performs. Even as he's managed himself over the past couple of years, he still performs at a high level when he's available. The question, though, is the availability coming off of last season, and that's something that will continue to linger over the course of this year in its entirety. That's going to do it for us tonight. Enjoy the preseason game tomorrow. The radio show, I'll be sitting right here doing it from 10 to 1 a.m. Central Time, or if you're in Atlanta, 11 to 2 Eastern Time, courtesy of our friends, all of our primetime friends who make it possible and make sure that we can continue to provide you the best Titans coverage. So 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. I'll be a part of pregame coverage on Titans Radio with Jim Wyatt and Rhett Bryan. That'll be something that you can also listen to across the Titans Radio Network, across anywhere that carries the Titans Radio Network frequency. And if you're in Nashville locally, That's on 104.5 The Zone. I'll be at the stadium. I can't wait to talk to you guys tomorrow. We'll have Coach Dave McGinnis on the radio show. There's the downtown Atlanta Ferris wheel that I'm thinking about just doing the entire radio show on and just asking them to take me in a constant loop. We'll see if they allow it. But in the meantime, even though I'm on the road, even though I have driven, I did radio. I did 3 hours of radio. I did 4 hours in the car. I got right out of the car. I sat down. I did prime time. Even though all of those things have happened, and there's going to be a full, probably 16-hour, probably 17-hour workday tomorrow, I don't care because it's football and I'm not tired yet.